All right, shalom, shalom. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachah Kodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who does lead and rule well. Salutations. Salutations to all you hopefully like Akim pushing out this word and truth and its sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And sincere shalom also to you Akim and Aqua for listening and learning, preparing yourselves here in these last days. All right, to the entire household of faith, fighting this good fight of faith, I want to say shalom. This is your brother Quad from the DC camp. Come back at you with another lesson. This is a S.H.I.N.E report showing him in news everywhere. And I'm entitled it More Divisions Among E. And I'm going to make this real quick, but, just paying attention, measuring the times, watching for these prophecies. Prophecies is still moving forward. Here it is. You got, you can see this the on the title. And this is from TLDR News EU. They got over 1 million subscribers. But it was just some news that happened over the past week. It says why America and Europe have fallen out again. All right, and I'm gonna just get a couple of scriptures and play a couple of these videos. But these relationships is they weakening, man. Between the beast and the whore. The beast and the whore, man. All right. So let me get this scripture, then I'll play this video. This is Matthew 12 and verse 25. It says, and Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. If Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? All right. And you got Satan, going up against Satan, casting out Satan. Because, they had when we talk about Edomite supremacy, they call it white supremacy, which was a global thing. It wasn't just a national thing. This was a global thing. This is how they're able to tell the narrative. All right, and them tiny hats, they are also Edomites. They like to make that separation as if they're not Edomites because they the ones pulling all these strings, from both sides. But they the top of the Edomites. And then you got these other Edomites, all right? But you got the beast in the EU, which is NATO and the EU is the beast, and America is the whore. They going at it against each other, man. And I just seen something, and I was doing some research on it in over the week, and I just want to do a quick video on it, man. But let me play this.
In the early hours of Friday morning, the White House published its much-anticipated national security strategy.
And again, this is from 3 days ago. It already got 133,000, almost 134,000 views. All right, this was on the 10th. All right. Let's read this thing real quick. Last week, White House published its national... let's go and say it.
33-page document was chock-a-block full of MAGA's favourite talking points. But the bit that drew the most attention was about Europe, where the US suggested it should, quote, cultivate resistance against a European establishment.
And Salakia, just want to put this disclaimer out there. This is free use. This is free use. I'm not making any money off of it. Just showing the news. That's something that's already public. Just educational purposes only. So, just that disclaimer out there. Again, this is from TLDR News in the EU. All right.
That is, according to Trump and co., leading Europe towards, quote, civilizational erasure. Only a few hours later, the European Commission then announced that it would be imposing a fine on Elon Musk's X for failing to meet its transparency obligations under the Digital Services Act, sparking a furious reaction from both Musk and senior White House officials.
So he said, Elon Musk said, how long before the EU is gone? Abolish the EU. All right, so he's calling for the abolishment of the EU. And then you got Marco Rubio. That's why I said a White House representative. It says the European Commission's $140 million fine isn't just an attack on at Elon Musk or X. It's an attack on all American tech platforms and the American people. You can't even see it. The days of censoring Americans online are over.
This all comes
Yeah.
in the context of ongoing Ukraine negotiations.
And these people are hypocrites because they saying that, but then they meanwhile is censoring their own citizens. So, you know.
Which don't seem to be going brilliantly for Kyiv or its European allies, with Trump accusing Zelensky of not even reading his peace plan on Sunday and sharing a New York Post article mocking, quote, impotent Europeans to his Truth Social on Monday. So in this video, we're going to take a look at why the EU and the US are falling out yet again, and how the EU should react. Too many subscriptions.
And see, I'm not going to get that whole video. But again, check that video out, man. It's about 8. It's not too long of a video. It's not that. So that's what I was looking into, right? So then, let me see. I just want to go here because this is what I was looking at, and this came out on December the 7th, so almost a week ago. I think Sunday. It says the European Commission hit X with a $120 million fine. They said 140 on December the 5th for 3 violations: paid blue check marks that misled users on verification, and add respiratory missing key details like topics and pairs, and barriers blocking researchers from public data on risk like disinformation. All right, and it does do that. It says X must fix the check mark issue in 60 days and the others in 90 or face bigger penalties. Must defend the paid badges as democratizing access and escalated by calling to escalated by calling to abolish the EU, drawing support from U.S. figures like Ted Cruz and J.D. Vance, who described it as censorship. So that's really one of the things that I was thinking about, because you got the U.S. is backing them, which is leading to those frictions. This is the Vice President of the United States. You see? Now, check this out. It's the EU should be abolished. We already read that, and sovereignty returned to individual countries so that governments can better represent their people, right? And then this dude says the U.S. should be abolished and sovereignty returned to individual states so that the governments can better represent their people. See how that sounds? You and the other 100 richest 1% should have their right to express a public opinion removed because you're such fools. Okay, so you can see what's happening now. Now, on my, when I click it, it's a lot more comments from this guy. Matter of fact, let me see if I can still look it up. It might have went away now. Or, okay, there we go. You just click top rather than latest, right? And this got 262,000 likes when he said that. 47,000 retweets. It says, how long before the EU is gone, blah, blah, blah. It says, the EU imposed this crazy fine not just on X, but also me personally, which is even more insane. Therefore, it would seem appropriate to apply our response not just to the EU, but also to the individuals who took this action against me. All right. So he keeps saying this. It's another one. Because a lot of this stemming from, they don't like Trump's handling of this Ukraine thing, The EU is drowning in corruption. Commissioners face serious charges. The EU Commission and Parliament are engulfed in a scandal, yet Brussels still claims the moral high ground. Corruption. Let me see something here. It says corruption in Ukraine should be called out by the EU, but once again, it's the same old story. Brussels and Kiev shielding each other instead of confronting truth. So, it's a lot going on, man. I don't want to click out of that, though. Where is that? This guy. What? It was something else that I seen. But yeah, they call him out. They call him a South African oligarch. um, yeah, so this is just trending, man. You know? See this? EU bureaucrats have turned into the enemies of free speech, enemies of Western civilization, and ultimately enemies of themselves. You know? So, and these people are hypocrites, man. Dang. That other thing that I seen is not on here. But check this out. Let me scoot that. Just so you know that the NATO and the EU is linked. Okay? Because you got, it says the U.S. relationship with NATO is a cornerstone military alliance for collective defense, with the U.S. being a key founder and provider of security, while ties with the EU are deep economic and political partnerships. So you got the military side, and then you got the other governmental side, you know, but they still the same. You know, sharing democratic values, major trade and investment, though sometimes strained by differing economic and regulatory policies, and recent U.S. political shifts questioning long-term commitment. So Trump saying if they don't change and do what they want him to do, you know, then he's gonna stop defending them as much and focus on America. And it says, especially as the EU builds its own defense pillar alongside NATO. Both relationships are vital but face complex dynamics, with the U.S. pushing the greater European burden sharing within NATO. Notes this analysis, and X points out the inconsistency between the EU and the U.S. goals. Let me see something here. So, you know, they just got something else. This was December 6th as well. You know? Just going into the, some of the divisions. My recent trip to Brussels for the NATO ministerial meeting left me with one overriding impression. The U.S. has long failed to address the glaring inconsistency between its relations with NATO and the EU. These are almost all the same countries in both organizations. When these countries wear their NATO hats, they insist that transatlantic cooperation is the cornerstone of our mutual security. But when these countries wear the EU hats, they pursue all sorts of agendas that are often utterly adverse to U.S. interests and security. See, and the Most High is putting it in their minds to hate the whore. You know, for these things to happen, because prophecy got to fulfill itself. Now, it's that Revelation 17, and I think the point is 16. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And this is what we talking about when we talking about this World War III. You look up all these nations and the weaponry that they have, man. You know, it's going to end up in World War III, but America being Babylon is the mystery Babylon in the Bible being completely wiped off the face of the earth. You know, it said made her burn with fire, which is the actual lake of fire. All right. It says, this is the point. For the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right. And so all you people that want to pray and I pray for America, and this is the Most High's will for this to happen. A part of it is the Lord judging and pleading the cause of his people. This is just how the Lord's going to do it, but he's going to judge these people for how they ruled the earth. He's about to destroy them that destroy the earth, as the scriptures say. You know, and these people have held that power. That's why the Lord is making them go up against each other, man. You know? And so what manner of people are you to be in, as the scriptures say? If you know these things, if the Bible is saying these things, what type of mindset, what type of spirit shall you be to prepare yourself, especially you living in America, man? Because you got a 1/3 and you got a 2/3. Okay? 2/3 of our people going to be destroyed and face the same judgment that this place is scheduled to get. Anyways, Where did I stop? Right here. Okay. It says, but when these countries where the EU has, they pursue all sorts of agendas that are utterly adverse to U.S. interests and security, including censorship, economic suicide / climate fanaticism, open borders, disdain for national sovereignty, promotion of multilateral governments and taxation, support the communist Cuba, etc., etc. This inconsistency cannot continue either. And this is by, who is this? Deputy Secretary of State. You know, it says either the great nations of Europe are our partners in protecting the Western civilization that we inherited from them, or they are not. But we cannot pretend that we are partners while those nations allow the EU's unelected, undemocratic, and unrepresentative bureaucracy in Brussels to pursue policies of civilizational civilizational suicide. Some words be getting me. You know? So this is good, man. This is a beautiful thing that these things is happening, man. Okay? The Most High is making things happen. And then, like, a lot of times I like to read these comments, man, of what these people be saying. Because it'd be crazy. You know? Look, I really wish the EU to find its balls and start being more vocal. This is not funny anymore. You know? Europe needs to become independent and find new global partners. So, hey, man, the scriptures say what's going to happen, man. You're going to have some of these people in NATO, some of these countries, you know, and I could have get the scriptures, but, you know, we already did the video on these things, but they're going to go into different, you know, partner with the bear, with Russia. This is what the scriptures say. And we watching it and we just see these things happening, you know? Look, you got shared values and friction. They share democratic values but have frequent disputes over trade regulations and foreign policy, creating tension despite deep ties. You know, so that division is going to ultimately lead into a breakup. You're going to have the whore's allies partner with their enemy, the bear. All right, you got America's allies from the NATO and the EU going to partner with, you know, Russia. All right, in their alliance. Okay, so this is a beautiful thing, man. Commitment and strength. U.S. support remains strong, though recent political shifts have questioned its unwavering commitment with legislative efforts like the 2024 NDAA aiming to prevent unilateral withdrawal without congressional approval. Okay? They try to tighten that grip, but they losing the grip. This place is done, man. You know? This place is done. But you people, you jakes, you have no idea what's going on. Although we do these videos, you know, got brothers going into way more detail than I go into, you know, than I went into in this video, you know, breaking these things down, making it plain upon tables, but you people don't want to listen. So the Lord, when these things come, you're not going to have no covering, okay? So all you people, that's what it means to be saved. You think you're already saved, then you're going to be crying out for a covering, you see? Okay? Defense spending to better share the load, with the U.S. still contributing the vast majority of NATO's defense budget. Okay. You know, it was something that I seen. Okay, look at this. Interconnection and future overlap and complementarity. It says most EU members are also NATO allies, creating overlapping interests, with EU defense cooperation seen as strengthening NATO's European pillar. So this is what's happening to they pretty much teaming up against, they're going to team up against this whore. All right. Recent U.S. foreign policy has highlighted perceived inconsistencies in European approaches with the EU versus NATO roles, creating transatlantic unease and calls for clear alignment, especially regarding strategic autonomy versus U.S. leadership, according to CSIS. That's another one. The NSS that could destroy the NATO alliance. So look these up too, man. Look these articles up. When did this come out? December the 5th. You know, and I'm gonna read this whole thing. You know, but this is the time that we in, man. Look at that. The U.S. and EU relations weakening. The latest. All right, this is the one we started with, but it's a couple more videos. U.S. strategy hints at weaning 4 countries away. So, do you see what's happening? This is like the Cold War. They are proxy wars before the actual physical war. Okay, so I'm gonna end it on that. Lord's willing. That was edifying and give you something to look at. These is what you're supposed to be paying attention to in these times, man. And that's how you don't get bored and just start going through the motions, because you following the prophecies and you see that the Lord he out here doing this thing, pulling them strings. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. Until the next lesson, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. I want to say Shalom.